So yes, I am Matthew Allen. I'm the Director of Careers and Education with the German American Chamber of Commerce in New York. A little bit of background. So our organization has been around since 1947, 1 year longer than the current German government. If you were here for the first session with our CEO, Dietmar Rieck, you might have already heard a little bit about our organization. We've had a lot of different focuses over the years, and just recently, as things have developed in the US, a big component of our work has become skills training. I personally come from the a background of a technical education, as we were hearing from our friend and colleague from the German American Business Council in Boston. German skills are obviously a component of a work toward a career path in a German American industry. I personally also studied physics along with German in college, and have worked through more technical jobs in the past, internship with BMW, some work with some automotive suppliers. And I understood from my work with these different organizations that there's always a struggle for skilled labor, and especially within the smaller companies. What we found out actually, my personal experience with one of the smaller automotive companies, they were in South Carolina. They were an international supplier for BMW, but they were having trouble meeting the quality standards that BMW required of them. And I won't say the name of the company because of that, but they were looking into the options for what they could do. And what they decided to do was to shift their production mostly to Mexico in order to have lower cost of labor, which South Carolina already is lower cost of labor than, for example, New Jersey, where we also see a lot of manufacturing. And that push to cheaper labor didn't end up helping them. They had a lot more issues with keeping the stability of their electricity right where they needed it to be. They had literal bugs in their computers that they had to deal with because their facility wasn't really set up the way that it should be. They were, on a downward trajectory. And we see that companies have a choice to make when they face a skills gap, and they have to choose whether they're going to invest and try to get better, or if they're going to race to the bottom. And it doesn't matter where they're starting. If they're in a high priced area or a low priced area, they need to make that decision. And we've seen companies that choose skills as their skills development as their pathway to be more successful. So again, a little bit about us. So this is our offices around the US. We have 4 main offices: Chicago, Atlanta, and New York. Our main offices on the, I guess those are the official German American chambers. In San Francisco, we have a representative of German business, which is also falls under the AHK, the German Chamber Network. And then we have a lot of satellite offices throughout the US. Each year we do a business outlook survey to all of our members throughout the US. We have around 2,500 members in the country, and we ask them a variety of questions about how their business is doing, how things are changing from one year to the next, and what they see going forward. So this was the 2020 outlook, which we asked at the end of 2019. We're in the process of asking the 2021 survey right now, and are going to expect a lot of results that are going to be fluid based on the election that we're still in the middle of. But for 2020, and also for the past several years, we've asked about the skills gap and what the access to skilled labor is for our German subsidiaries in the US. And it's no surprise that over the course of that time, it's continued to grow the need for skilled labor, and continue to have more and more challenges on accessing that skilled labor. So this is just a little bit about the way the survey was conducted. We had about 200 companies that actually ended up participating and giving their input. And again, so the availability of skilled workers was a top concern. And it was, if we look at the top 3 economic challenges to business, availability of skilled workers was number 1. for 23% and was in the top three for 56% of the companies that talk to us about their needs. So we're consistently hearing this, and this is a statistic that's only increasing. But it makes sense. Unfortunately, the US doesn't have a single system that works toward skilling employees, especially in manufacturing. We have an apprenticeship concept in the US that goes back over 100 years, but it's mainly in the trades. So if you're going to carpentry, electrical, plumbing, those sorts of jobs, apprenticeship is a typical pathway. It seems to be the main pathway. For a manufacturing job, generally you would go to a four-year college, get an engineering degree, and then you would go into a managerial or some sort of a highly technical job. Or if there's a lower skilled job, there would be someone who would go directly into the workforce out of high school, or maybe go to a 2-year college for an associate's degree. Unfortunately, what the companies are finding out, and this is where the skills gap comes in, there is this need for this middle skilled worker that is not being trained by anyone right now. And the challenge is the folks who come out of a four-year college, they have high costs during college. I'm not going to say that they all come out with debt, but a lot of people come out of college with debt. And when you're entering the workforce, you need a higher wage after leaving a four-year college than if you didn't do that. And that higher price for someone who comes into the workforce from a four-year college degree doesn't really match the wages that the companies are able to pay for these lower skilled jobs. But the lower skilled jobs, they are very technical, and you need someone who has more technical skills in things like computer programming and in maintenance, welding, very, very technical skills. And even these skills, in fact, are not necessarily available in a four-year college program for a typical general engineering degree anyway. So the companies tend to have to retrain employees or increase their training and invest in their training anyway. Then we have the companies that decide to take people off the street, or who maybe are coming from just having other jobs that they decided to transition to a new career, or coming directly from high school or from a 2-year college degree. And again, they have to skill these folks up. And generally, these are not the high performers that end up going to college, because that pathway of going to a four-year college has been the main pathway for young people who have aspirations to be successful. The interesting dynamic that's coming up is that these middle skilled jobs that are taking over for the low skilled jobs, they do have a decent wage attached to them. Usually they would start between $15 and $20 per hour, with growth potential from there. And for someone who gets successful in one of these middle skilled jobs, there is the opportunity to grow with the company and to become someone who's in management. And this is in fact what we see in Germany, where when you go through an apprenticeship program where the company is invested in your skills training, those people who start at the very lowest levels of the company, learning every single thing from the way that all of the administrative systems work as part of an apprenticeship program, to manually filing down a single piece of metal to fit to make it perfect for this machine that's being repaired. Those people who have that broad spectrum of the skills that the company needs are the ones who become the leaders of the companies. And then we see that the heads of companies like Siemens and Volkswagen are former apprentices. And this is very typical. And we expect that as the apprenticeship system in the U.S. becomes more and more successful and well known, that same process will take place here. So a little bit to dual education in Germany. So the German American Chamber of Commerce, we're part of the German Chamber of Commerce network, and the German chambers are responsible for managing the whole apprenticeship system of Germany. They administer the general training plans. They make sure that these training plans work for the industry. They take input from the companies, and they ensure that there's a stability, that there's a set of standard skills that are shared among everyone, regardless of what company that they're in. for a specific job criteria. In addition, they provide testing to make sure that the apprentice, when they are done with their program, has met a minimum competency level. And they do the official final certification of the apprentice that's nationally recognized. The important component of it is called dual education. So at the end of the program, you haven't just learned your skills on the job, you've also been taking classes in a classroom academic setting so that you have a full, well-rounded education and can become a member of society. You're not just putting the blinders on and becoming successful at your job. You're intended to become a leader in your community as well. And that's written into the laws regarding apprenticeship. In the US, as I say, so apprenticeship has been around for over 100 years in the US, but the main comparison to Germany is mainly in manufacturing. So we've seen, again, the skills gap in manufacturing, and we can mainly go back to the Obama administration, who recognized that there was this need to invest in apprenticeship as a way of skilling up manufacturing workers in the country. And they put a great effort on learning from the German system. Ambassador to Germany at the time, Phil Murphy, who's now the governor of New Jersey, put a lot of effort into learning the system, and they brought back best practices, and they adjusted the apprenticeship system in the US, making it much more widely accessible for industries like manufacturing, and trying to roll it out and incentivize companies to take part. They have included a dual education component as well. It's not as rigorous and structured as it is in Germany, and has a lot more flexibility where the company gets to decide what the academic component of the program is, but there needs to be an academic component. A lot of different models are available for these. The German American Chamber is one of many sponsors for Department of Labor registered apprenticeship programs. And just like in Germany, when an apprentice graduates from one of those programs, they have a certificate, a journey worker certificate, that is nationally recognized across the whole US. So there's a lot of parallels there. Unfortunately, the number of apprentices is nowhere near what it is in Germany. There's over 1 million apprentices in Germany. There's less than 700,000 in all of the United States. 250,000 apprentices started their programs last year, which in the United States, which is over 100% increase over the past decade. So the programs are growing rapidly, but we are starting at such a smaller level than in Germany. We are set to start Q&A in just a minute, so let me just quit babbling and go on to one last point about this. So of course we do run our program in apprenticeship, but one key component to our programs is mentorship. So in Germany, not only do we certify or is apprenticeship certified, but also our training of the trainers. So we have brought that best practice to the US as well, and we train the trainers who are going to be in charge of your apprentices. I mean, just imagine you have someone who's done the same job, learning a skill, getting good at that skill over the course of 30, 40 years, and they're supposed to train a young person on how to be successful at the skill. They should learn those special skills of teaching, and we've seen a lot of great success in that approach. And there's currently a Department of Labor grant program that we're part of that is experimenting with training mentors, where we are training the mentors on some programs and not on others, and we're going to look at the outcomes, which apprentices are most successful. So we're very inspired by that opportunity. And there's a lot of different opportunities to go into these programs. Again, we do mainly in manufacturing, but there's a lot of different pathways for manufacturing. Mechatronics is the one that most people choose. There are also programs that are less technical. Engineering, sales is an on-the-road kind of job where you're more involved with the customer service. And then there are technician programs that are more and that are less technical, in fact, and have a lower barrier of entry. And that's all I wanted to get through today, so I'm happy to take questions.